In this next video, we're going to look at something called the Fulcrum wrist bounce. So, although this has a bit of a fancy name to it, basically all we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to work on bouncing the stick. So, there's a couple exercises that I like to do first before we get into the Fulcrum wrist bounce. So, first start with just one of your sticks, hold it above the drum, maybe a foot above the drum, and let the stick drop and let it bounce. So you'll notice that when I don't stop the stick after hitting the drum, the stick actually wants to rebound up off the drum. So in the coming videos, most of the exercises we'll work on will help us to get used to using this bounce to our advantage. So in the German grip section, we talked about playing a note and then bringing the stick back up for the next note. And what we're trying to achieve with the Fulcrum wrist bounce is to use the bounce of the stick to bring the stick back up to its starting point, so that rather than have to play and then lift back up, we can play a note and let the bounce of the stick return us to our starting point, so that we don't have to go down, up. We just have to worry about down, 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 down. So the two exercises that I like to go through with everyone before we start the Fulcrum wrist bounce is to simply play a few notes on the drum and let the stick bounce up through our grip into this part of our hand here. And this is just getting our hands used to the bounce of the stick, getting more sensitive to allowing the stick to do what it wants to do, which is bounce up after each note. So letting that stick bounce through my grip. Once you're comfortable with this, do the same thing, but instead try catching it in your grip after it bounces up. So when I'm doing this, it may look like at the end or at the bottom of the stroke when I hit the drum, it actually may look like I'm letting go of the stick for a second. I'm just trying to be as loose as I can, and after the stick hits the drum, I'm just letting my hand and my arm follow the stick up. So I'm not pulling that stick back up to this point. I'm really just throwing it down and letting it rebound up. And I'm bringing my hand and my arm up with the stick so that it can do what it wants to do. So if we speed this up, we get into the Fulcrum wrist bounce. So a little bit faster, it looks like this. So I'm still making the same movement that I did with my wrist from the German grip video, but instead of controlling that stick, I'm letting my fingers be a little bit looser so that the stick can move around a little bit. And so I can let that stick bounce up after each note. So the exercises that I have written out in the Fulcrum wrist bounce exercise are, the first one is just a bar of eighth notes on each hand, and then half a bar of eighth notes on each hand, and then alternating back and forth, right, left. So here's exercise 1 from the Fulcrum wrist bounce. I'll play 8 notes on each hand. So here we go. Moving on to the second exercise. Moving on to the second exercise. So, sorry, that last one was the third exercise. So with each one of those, I'm not too worried about if I'm playing a bar of notes or if I'm playing 4 notes. Really the point of this exercise is just to get our hands used to the fact, or used to letting go of the stick and letting the stick bounce up off the pad. If you've been playing drums for a while already, this will probably feel a little bit unusual, and you'll probably really want to control the stick after each note. So this may take some time. Try and be loose and try and let that stick bounce up off the drum after each hit. So that's the Fulcrum wrist bounce.